So now let's get today's event started, creating escape rooms for learning using an action-first learning approach with Carl Kopp and Joshua Bledgy. Carl and Joshua, welcome back to Training Magazine Network.
Oh, thanks. It's great. Great to be here. Let me share my screen and thank everyone for attending. It's very exciting to be here and very exciting to be talking about this subject. So one of the things I'm going to do right away is put you to work. It's action first, so we're going to take some action. So imagine you're a novice. You're helping a novice instructional designer, and the novice instructional designer created an e-learning module, but no one learned anything. The horror of it all. What can be done? Well, throughout this presentation, there's going to be clues. And I'll give you a hint. There's going to be 4 clues throughout the presentation that's going to lead to the phrase that describes why the e-learning module was not successful. What went wrong? You need to solve that mystery. So let's see what's happening here. Okay, so my name is Carl Kopp. I'm a professor of instructional design and technology at Bloomsburg University in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I see a number of folks from Bloomsburg, so welcome, alums. And I see some of my friends from the Air Force here, so welcome as well, and friends from literally all over the world. So excited that everyone could be here with us today, and very excited to be presenting with Joshua. He is a technical guru. He can do, I think, technically escape rooms in his sleep. So Joshua, you want to say a few words?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all today, and excited to be in this time with you. Really excited to show you what we can do. Escape rooms are kind of a fun modality. I think that can be pretty applicable across a variety of different areas. So I'm really excited to contribute here today.
Great, Joshua. Great to have you here. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about escape rooms. We're going to talk about, I don't know what's going on there. Okay, sorry about that. There's some little.
And Carl, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're getting a notification block in the lower right. For some, I'm not sure if you can move that away, but it's just kind of popping up randomly.
It's the comments.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. As that now people know what it is. So again, apologize that that's happening.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I don't know how to stop comments, and I like comments, so it's a tricky thing. So let's talk about what is an escape room for learning. What can escape rooms teach us? What types of clues do you want to use in escape rooms? And then what are some key design principles? And then we're going to see several escape rooms in action. And the bonus section, Joshua is going to actually show you how to build one. All this information, I have a chapter in my book called Action First Learning, which talks about escape rooms, talks about card games for learning, board games for learning, AI for learning. Each chapter is a different element in it. So you keep that in mind as you go forward. This could be very helpful. And let's first talk about what we mean by an escape room. So lots of us think about an escape room as literally a room that you have to escape from. And yes, that is true. There are escape rooms. But escape room has really gone beyond that physical 4-wall boundary. You may have played an escape room in a box, which is a great way to have an escape room. You may have done an escape room online. This one in the middle here was done by one of my students, and she did a great job creating this virtual escape room. It might be a book. There's a really cool book called S, which is basically an escape room in the whole time you read the book. And then even card escape room. So when I say escape room, we're going to show virtual here, but I want you to think beyond the virtual wall of an escape room. Escape that thought and think about board games, videos, books, card games that you can do. So don't be bounded by thinking of a room. Think of what can we do where we create interesting puzzles that people have to solve and try to find some mysteries. Okay, so why are they effective for learning? Like a lot of people kind of poo-poo, oh, an escape room, for learning, geez, pulling my hair out. But actually, the good thing about them is that they're an intense focused experience, right? Escape room is typically an hour. So you can imagine the power that you can do if you had your learners completely focused for 1 hour on a specific training timeline. And it's about solving problems. And many of our jobs are all about solving problems. So escape rooms are perfect for that. They're a safe environment to experiment, fail, and try again. We actually learn. There's some really fascinating research, and if you follow me on LinkedIn and my L&D newsletter, L&D Easter eggs newsletter, I just recently had one about learning about failure from watching other people fail. Right? We always think we learn from our mistakes, but it turns out we learn an awful lot from other people's mistakes. We learn from them. So learning failure is part of the learning process. We don't like as adults to fail, so we don't want to be put in a failure situation, except when we're in an environment where it's okay, right? If you don't escape the fail room, if you don't escape an escape room in 60 minutes, it's not horrible, right? It's okay. There's not career limiting consequences, right? It's okay to fail. It's okay to try to do it again. It's okay to want to do it again. So that's an encouragement of an escape room. It also can simulate real world pressures in a controlled setting. So you could do things like having to figure out accounting problems. You can do things like having to figure out communication problems. You can do things like having to figure out machine operating problems. It's amazing that when you describe something to a human, you say, oh, here's how this piece of machinery works, and you go over it, and you're like, yeah, that's okay. But when you go, hey, here's a problem. If we don't get this machine working in a half an hour, we're going to lose our biggest salesperson, or we're going to lose our biggest customer. All of a sudden, it's this different sense. It's a different level of excitement and engagement. And it fosters teamwork, of course, communication, and social connection, as well as encouraging observation, adaptation, and even non-linear thinking. When we're in a world now where AI can do a lot of linear thinking for us, not always really well, but it tries to do it. What we're going to be an advantage over robots and machines is this non-linear putting things together that don't seem to go together. And escape rooms can help us do that because we don't typically have to solve them in any order. We have something that we have to solve to leave the room, but everything else we solve up until that time is not necessarily done in an order. So that's an advantage of an escape room. So what can they teach? Communication and collaboration under pressure, right? You've got this pressure situation that you can't get out of unless you solve the problems. It's nonlinear, as I talked about. It's about observation and attention to detail. And wouldn't it be great if our learners were highly observant and paid attention to the details that we're teaching them? It's adaptable, and it teaches us adaptability as well as decision making and social connection. One of the things I find I've witnessed a number of different learning based um, escape rooms, and I talk about one in the book that I did that was done for a consulting company, and there was like 18 simultaneous escape rooms, all done in this giant ballroom, all the same escape room, but all the people working together. And the difference between success and failure was that social connection, that ability to communicate, that ability to share ideas. And in a lot of ways, we have people that are returning to office, not returning. How do we build that social connection? Companies and organizations are cultural. How do we build that culture? Now, I'm not here to tell you an escape room is going to build your entire company culture, because that's not true. But it can be a piece of that puzzle of building your culture and getting learners involved in the process. And so let's jump into examples. So one of the examples that I like, one of my favorites, is just doing good old fashioned Google. So this is a Google escape room that I created, and I just use Google Forms and Google Present. And so you click on different things and it gives you different pieces of information. So for example, if I come here, oops, I'm actually in the slide and not in Google itself. Oh, Dr. Cop. Okay, so let's go to escape the professor. There we go. You can see I'm in Google Slideshow. And if I just click on Google Slideshow, I'm in an office that looks exactly like the slide I just showed you, but now things are clickable. So you can click on the mouse, for example, and it's going to go to a Google form that says, hey, always remember capital letters are key. Okay, that's interesting. And then I can come back here. So just a simple use of forms and Google Slides allows you to check it out. So this says, hey, there's a clue that's been staring at you. You found an old box. There's a mini safe behind the box. Oh, that's kind of cool. Enter a 6-digit code to open it. So I already entered the code, but if you look, here was the code, 702W30. And you might say, well, that seems pretty obvious. It's not obvious. A lot of people sometimes miss that kind of clue. But when you put that in, it then gives you information. It says right in front of you, and it talks about the importance of presence in a team. So this whole escape room was about teamwork. And one of the elements of teamwork is presence. Be on your team, be a participating member. So that gives you that information. Then you can come back and you can look for other things, and you can add a mix of serious and not as serious. So here's a question that's related to Doritos. There's a bag of Doritos laying there, which is not a flavor of Doritos. And you can look, does anybody have a thought of which kind of Doritos are not really a flavor of Doritos, right? So that would be something that you may want to think about. So any thoughts on which of these is not a flavor of Dorito? The Scooby-Doo pepper. Lots of people saying Scooby, so let's see. I would hope Scooby-Doo pepper would be Doritos. But it turns out, no, Phantom Scooby-Doo Doritos is not really a thing. You are correct. But look at the little story. Just as Doritos is courageous in creating original and unique flavors, a team needs to have courage to have the forming, norming, storming process. So that's kind of the elements in here. You even have some clues here. This looks like a little bit of Braille. It's a strange reflection. This is an important part of establishing a team. And so this is actually, I believe, storming. And remember before it said capital letters are key. So you have to remember that. We submit it and remember the key. Oh, I did not do that correctly. Okay. I thought the key was capital letters. So always, here's a little pro tip. Always have a cheat sheet beside you so you know what's in your escape room when you're presenting it. Otherwise, it looks like you're confused in your own escape room. So anyway, it should be storming. I'm not sure quite what happened there. But anyway, that's a way to very easily and quickly do an escape room in Google. So Google SlideShare, you just make hot links to Google Forms and you have the information in the form. So that's kind of a really good way to look at it there. Okay, so let's look at the next example. And this one is Joshua is going to show us this. This is done in Lectura called the Haunted Office. So if anybody doesn't like gore, now would be a good time to look away. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. And Joshua can go ahead and show us a couple of examples. Joshua?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and let's see. Are we seeing that? See my screen there? Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. So I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and kind of move this off over here real fast. But so this one, we're going to log in so that they know who we are. We're going to start this escape room. I've done this one a couple of times, so it's asked me to continue where I left off. But so here's what we're going to do. Surprise, your new home office is haunted. Fortunately, it's also secured with a brand new puzzle lock. Unfortunately, you're locked inside without the code. To make it worse, you've only got 3 minutes to make it out. Explore the room and learn parts of the key code to help you unlock the door and escape before it's too late. Each piece of the code you discover will appear at the top left of the screen. Can you make it out of the room in time? So let's see how we do here. So we're in our new home office. We got some scary stuff happening. We got a cat that's not super pleased with us. So what materials were originally used to create Halloween costumes? Got a few different things there. We'll go ahead and just say all of them. Oh, that's not right. Okay, maybe we'll try that again later on. Looks like we got parts of our it's picking up where I left off. So we got a little bit of our code already. Go ahead and shut the lights off. So this is all about Halloween, if you haven't figured this out. So Celts thought that the presence of otherworldly spirits might bring about visions of or predictions about the idea? Future, someone said. I think that's a good guess. So go ahead and type that in there and continue on here. So we got 3 of our letters. If you guys can figure this out, let me know. What do you think the code is? So a little more information there. Which of the following is another name for Halloween? Believe it's all Halloween. Oh, looks like we got some people that figured out the code already. Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll go ahead and submit that there. Continue on. And I think we'll go ahead and just try to get out of here because I'm getting a little freaked out in here myself. So go ahead and enter that and see if we're right. And good job, we escaped. So your time here, you may close the window. We also have a little scoreboard here that will show you, how well you did, where you rank, those types of things here. But that's our escape room built in Lectora. The interesting thing about this is actually just, if you're familiar with Lectora, there's just a test function. That's really what we're using here, is just a test object here to create this full interactivity that we see here. So pretty cool.
Joshua, that's great. We have a question about how long does it take to design something like this? Any thoughts?
Well, escape rooms are pretty intricate because you got to think through not only the training materials that you're using, but the puzzles as well. So they can take a significant amount of time to do right, I guess is the best way to phrase that. So this one I know took us about, if I remember correctly, it took us about a month or so to design and develop this one. And that was through QA cycles and everything as well, since this is obviously a digital escape room. So you are talking like hours of commitment, but they can be simpler than this. And so you can kind of scale that time depending on how complex you want to get. Like some of the one we're going to build today in that bonus session, it's a lot simpler than this. And didn't take as long to build or plan. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next option here. So this is one that's built in Scenario VR. So this is going to be kind of the prototype for what we're going to show later today in that bonus session. But this is a more advanced kind of escape room. You're going to be seeing that's a 360 image that we're going to be experiencing.
Point icons to reveal the puzzles that will help you escape. Click on the star icons to receive a hint. You're only allowed 1 hint, so use it wisely.
So hopefully you can hear the audio there. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the escape room here. Now this one also has a timer element to it, so we have 5 minutes to explore this. And you'll notice that some of the areas initially here, they are locked for us right now, so we have to find the lock for that as well. But we have this hotspot right here. So this is just a little riddle here. So what flies without wings? Anybody have any idea? Got a time? Yep, time. So where's something that has to do with time? Probably that clock. There we go. So we got a little bell there to tell us we got it. And you notice it adds to our unlock code there. So we'll go ahead and keep exploring here. This next one is find 3 puzzle pieces to reveal the image and receive the next clue. So, okay, 3 puzzle pieces. If you see them, they're these might be a little hard to see, so I'll go ahead and see if I can find them myself. There's one. I think the other one's over here somewhere. Okay, so we got our second piece. And now we have another puzzle here. Let's go ahead and select that. This one you're going to have to pay attention to. I do have my cheat sheet ready for this one, though. Thanks, Carl, for that reminder. Trying to spot the pattern. Okay, let's see if I wrote this down correctly. So I think it's blue, red, orange, blue, green, red, orange. Okay, we got it. So notice that now unlocks the kitchen. So I'll go ahead and move over here to the kitchen. And we got a little clue over here. I can be ground, but I'm not pepper. I can be pressed, but I'm not a button. I can be brewed, but I'm not beer. What am I? Oh, we got somebody coffee. Okay. So we got a coffee machine over here. So we got the next piece of our unlock. So we just have one more to find. We're doing pretty good on time here. So we'll go ahead and head to the bathroom now. And we have, let's see here, anything. There we go. Okay, so unscramble this phrase or word here. Anybody have any idea? Oh, somebody got it. Looks like a couple people did. Stovetop. So we'll go back to the kitchen. And our stovetop. Okay, we got our code. And now we'll go ahead to our exit here. And now we got this number lock. So we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and see what we got here. So 0. Oh, that's not right. Okay. Let's go back and see. 0824 was our code. Let's go ahead and try that. 0824. And let's try that again.
Josh, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah. I've never been so stressed on a webinar before. But you can kind of see the difference there. Like, and you'll see again in that bonus session a little more how that those are built and some of those activities that are in there. But you think about how immersive that is, just being that 360 space, and how different that is from even these here that we showed with the slides and everything. And just how real world that can even get from just that perspective, depending on what tool you're building. But Carl, I'll go ahead and send the share back over to you.
Okay, great, thanks.
So
I will go ahead and share that, and then I will. Okay. Now I want to show a share. Oh, I thought I had that lick there. Okay. Let's see if that gets rid of our chat. No. Somehow. Okay. So, all right. So I want to show. Whoops. A little bit of a learning. So this was norming. That's why I got that wrong. I went and checked the Braille. So now it's norming. And so we're all good here on the escape room. But I wanted to show a scenario VR. This is done in software called Scenario VR. And this was training actually done to teach cleanup people about cleaning up for Airbnbs, right? So this is a little escape house that you may want to use it in and kind of check it out. So this doesn't have like messages. You just kind of figure out where to go, but also where to click. So I'm going to click on this light. I know there's a light switch. And so it embeds learning in there. Like, always remember to turn off the light when you leave. Okay. And I look around. One important thing or principle when you think about designing an escape room is some people like to just start clicking around. Some people like to have a little bit of order in the process. So I always put a starter in to help people kind of understand where they need to go. So here's a starter. You click on this, and where does the sun rise, right? I think it rises in the north like everywhere. Oh, no, it says it rises in the east as it does everywhere. So now I have to try again. One of the things that you do want to think about is if it's a learning escape room, if somebody doesn't escape, are they still learning anything? And so you have to think about, how are you going to reinforce knowledge if somebody gets a puzzle wrong? How are you going to reinforce learning if somebody doesn't get the content right? So you always need to think about that. So in this case, we just made the person try again. And there's the east, and it says the sun rises in the east, so clean those sliding glass windows. So it's a reminder of that's the next step that you need to do to remove that from the guest. Okay, let me go over here then and look outside and see what might be out here. And we did this software. So you can buy software cameras to do 360 video. But this is something I actually did on my own phone. So there's something called Vision 360, and you basically hold the phone and you move around space to space to space and taking pictures, and it puts together the entire 360-degree view. So I just stood here and I just used my camera and took it. And so here it's called 360 Photo Cam is the piece of software I use to take the 360 video. So if you want to take a 360 video, it's as easy as that. It's actually free software that you can download. Now, it's not perfect. You can see this beam here isn't exactly a great beam, but if you're doing low budget training, it's a fantastic way to do it. And here's an object that was in scenario VR. So I click on the bird. It's not a hummingbird, it should be, but so it says, always remember to look up. Also, please empty the bird feeder once a week or the birds might get sick. So it gives me some information there. I looked up. Okay. That's more of a reminder to me. So I can walk in and maybe I see, oh, there's a notepad. So I click on that. And it's something that happens to be, in this case, Morse code. So I want to try to figure out what time checkout is. Maybe there's some hints over here. And I click here, and here's actually Morse code. So that's another thing that you need to consider as you develop an escape room. Do you want the learners to go outside of the escape room, maybe to the internet or to other resources to find the information? Or do you want to embed all of the information and all of the clues that they need inside the environment itself? That's a design decision that you have to make. I think if learners do have access to outside information, typically like maybe your company's website, maybe you're trying to do a little bit of a thing with your company's rules and regulations, then maybe it should not be in the escape room. Maybe it should be somewhere where they need to go. So this time I know checkout is there. That's 11. Okay, so that's my checkout. So that's good. And then, oops, I clicked on that again. I can click where else it says, oh, you found a banana. Remember to always fill in the fruit. Okay, but we're looking for Bigfoot. Does anybody see Bigfoot? Oh, yeah, I do. He is right there's Bigfoot. Okay, and then you found him. This panel gets very dusty, so remember to dust off Bigfoot and turn off the lights when you leave, right? So those are some things that you can talk about and think about. Remember, we could just say, hey, make sure that you dust off this panel because it gets dusty. But now that you're searching for Bigfoot and you remember that Bigfoot gets dusty and you have to clean it off, it's actually performing more of a memory elaboration to help the learner recall that kind of information. So that's just some information in there to keep it instructional. So let's now talk about types of puzzles that you might want to include in your escape room. So as Joshua said before, once you get the escape room kind of designed, then putting it into the software becomes a secondary part. And it takes a little bit of development and programming. But what I've found in my experience, whether you're doing a virtual online one or whether you're doing a physical one, it's coming up with the puzzles that make sense and that help with the process. So one of my favorite kind of puzzles are logic and deduction puzzles. And so there's a polybus square where you find a 1 and a 1, that's an A, and you find a 3 and a 2, that's an L. So you can hide codes or logic different places. You can also do kind of crack the code. This is from the Activity Mom, and somebody before was asking about templates for escape rooms. There's lots of different templates out there. One of the places that you can look is the Activity Mom. They're paper templates, but I think this is a great code, right? So 682, one number is correct and well placed. 614, one number is correct, but in the wrong place. So just those two tell me, okay, it can't be a 6, right? Because there's only one number that's correct. So it's either a 1 or a 2, right? And so we got to figure that out. And so you kind of go through that process and come up with the number. So one of the things that you may want to think about are logic or deduction puzzles that you can put into your learning and development that can help solve that mystery as you're going through the process. The other thing that you want to think about when you develop an escape room is you want a mixture of difficult and easy puzzles. If you make all of the puzzles easy, then it's too quick to get through the experience. But if you make all the puzzles really difficult, some people that aren't used to it, don't like it as much, tend to get more frustrated and tend not to enjoy it as much. Now, someone mentioned, should we do some puzzles that definitely align with the learning objective? Absolutely. There are puzzles that you can put in that you would align with it. So let's say that you were doing accounting and you want somebody maybe to figure out the summing feature in Excel. Well, maybe you would make a puzzle to figure out how to do the summing feature. And if they did it properly, that would give you the proper number to unlock a lock. So that's an example that you can do that helps with that particular process. So you really want to make sure that you have this mix of some that are definitely learning focused. You can also add learning, as we saw in the Airbnb example. It's kind of like reinforcing. You solve the puzzle, you reinforce the learning. Lots of help in there that can be good. Now, ciphers and code breaking is a big part of creating these escape rooms, and you can use lots of different kinds of code. So we have the Morse code is one that's often used. So putting that in there with the dashes and dots are one that you can put in that you would want to consider what's the right way to do that. Another is images. So you might have to put images in the right place or in the right sequence or something like that. You also then can do Braille, and you can do these things called Caesar ciphers, which are really cool. They're usually mixing a letter back, forward, or backwards as you're doing it. So here is a Caesar puzzle. I think it's 3 back or several back, like D. So the C is actually the D, and you can do things like that. So when I put in the cipher, it kind of looks like that. That's an important thing to put in there. The other thing that you can think of is, as Joshua showed, color coding the little actions. And so by doing that, color coding it, we saw that we had to do it in the right order. And again, in my experience, the first time I created an escape room, I tried to make it as learning focused as possible and kind of work the things in. But the first time you do it, you're going to be leaning probably more on the puzzles than actual, like, okay, here's my learning objective. So once you kind of practice it and get comfortable with the puzzles, but then you may want to go to higher level ones, as somebody had mentioned in Bloom's, like maybe you have to create an advertisement, and the advertisement has to be shown to an instructor that has to meet certain criteria. And that creation process high up on Bloom's level, if it's right, then the instructor might give you a tip or a hint. So we don't have to think about an escape room as being like 100% online, 100% physically, or anything like that. It can be kind of a mixture of the elements. So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind are locks and combinations. And a lot of people think of a lock as they think of like numbers. And so numbers are great locks as well, but you can also think of directional locks. So for example, if you have a system, a piece of machinery that you have to move in a certain direction, you could put that in. You could have locks that are numeric and color coded. So we worked with a company one time and they had different color coded forms, and those forms had to be filled out in the right order. And so we created an escape room with a lock that had the colors that were the right order that you had to put them in. And the interesting thing about where we are today, for example, with AI, is you can go into AI and you can ask it to create a specific lock that you might want to have in your learning. So you can actually create a lock and say, here's what I want the lock to say, here's what I want the lock to do. And then you can actually use that image. And as somebody's clicking around, like we saw in the Google example or in the examples that Joshua and I showed, you can then click on that lock. Maybe you have to cipher the lock. Maybe the lock has the information, and you can unlock the information that you might need to do. This is a keypad that Joshua showed that are pretty common as well. So there's all kinds of puzzles, and in the handout, I list all of the puzzles that, or a number of puzzles that you can do. So we talked about like logic and deduction, like a Sudoku type of puzzle or a grid puzzle. We talked about ciphers. What we haven't talked about yet is like words and language. So you could use anagrams, riddles. You could use mnemonics like Roy G. Biv. You can see J.K. Rowling. For I am Lord who shall not be named, right? That was Tom Riddle, right? So she kind of did that. Wordplay is kind of do that. You can even highlight certain elements. The blue light, somebody had mentioned blue light, kind of what Joshua showed, where you click on the light and it showed writings on the wall. You can even do things like that. You can get very clever digitally, or you can even do that in an analog environment. Math and numbers, subtraction, division, multiplication, as I said before, using spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are popular with accounting type elements, a hidden object or a face that appears that represents some kind of a clue. That could be some kind of a message. Assembly, you could do puzzles, jigsaw if you have that type of information, and then audio and video clues. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind is your audience. Are there accessibility limitations? And there may be. So you may want to have a clue that's both audio and video. Braille clues are good for accessibility as well. Having a coach or someone come in talk to you about accessibility can be helpful also. Like somebody off to the side if you're doing something. Consider textures. If you have a person that has disability seeing, you can maybe have a velvet texture versus a more coarse texture to figure things out. Maybe have clues that are available in Braille as well as in Morse code. So lots of different ways that you can do that as well. And time and sequence is another way to do that when you complete tasks in a certain order or under certain pressure. So all kinds of ways that you can think about doing this and getting clever with those kinds of pieces of information. So here are some design principles that I use and some others use as well. I see April's here. Hey, April, shout out to you. She's got a really great the leadership escape room. I mentioned it in the book, so you can check that out as well. But one of the things that you want to think about is defining clear learning objectives and outcomes. So the idea behind this is that you don't want to create an escape room just for an escape room. You have to have a clear learning objectives. Maybe it's a communication objective and a content objective. You have to know about certain spreadsheets or certain forms. Maybe it's we want the team to work together. Maybe we want people to think non-linearly to problem solve. So you need to be very clear about what that is. And then you also need to be clear about your debrief. One of the things I think is missing in a lot of escape rooms is the debrief. I'm a strong believer that there's no learning without reflection. There's only an experience. So after you have this experience, you've got to bring people together and say, okay, what did you learn? How would you apply that on the job? What were some things that you discovered there that you think are transferable? So make the learners articulate what they did. We did an escape room one time. It was digital. And you're like, well, how are you going to do the reflection? What are you going to do? Well, what we did was we had a character as a reporter, and the reporter came up and said, hey, you had a great time in that escape room, assuming they escaped. And you did some really interesting things. Let me ask you some questions. And then asked questions based on that experience to get the learner to reflect on the experience. So we stuck with the theme in the story, but we forced the learner to reflect. We asked them to reflect. So go ahead and think about that. Also think about creating logic puzzles and puzzle flows and a timeline. I often create an escape room timeline of puzzles, like when I think this will happen, how long I think it'll happen. So you can kind of estimate. It's always a good idea to play test your escape room before you set it out into the wild. There's all kinds of information that you may not anticipate. And humans are awesome. Like they'll see patterns where you never thought there was a pattern. They'll see workarounds where you never thought there was a workaround. So if you don't pre-test it, people will figure it out. Like a lot of people will try to, you got to kind of be clever and give hints after they find something because they'll try to brute force answers. Okay, I know it's got to be some combination of red, green, yellow. So I'm just going to type red, green, yellow, green, red until I get it and not really solve the puzzle. So you need to be aware that that could happen, and you need to keep that in mind. And then clue diversity, I talked about this before, and difficulty variation. You don't want all the clues to be really easy or really hard. Start kind of easy and then get more difficult, sprinkle them in. Sprinkle different kinds of clues. What I find is when I teach my graduate courses, people that like to solve word puzzles, all their escape rooms have word puzzles in them. People that are numeric, all those have numeric. And while you might like to solve those kind of puzzles, not everyone does. So you need to mix it up so there can be a variety of types of puzzles as well as difficulty of puzzles. Some people don't like certain types of puzzles. My wife, for example, is really, really good at Wordle. I'm horrible at Wordle, but I'm really good at connections. She's not as good at connections. So different people like different kinds of puzzles. You need to sprinkle that in. And as I said before, a structured debriefing is really critical in order for that learning to stick. So go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so the summary, and before I turn it over to some questions and also some conversation. So escape rooms offer action-first, engaging learning experiences. The learner needs to do something right away. And we know that when we have the learner do something sooner rather than later, instead of reading all the learning objections, I call them objections, they're objectives. But think about this. If you are teaching sales, for example, then you say to the sales class, hey, today we're going to learn 3 ways to close a sale. And the salespeople are going to go, I know 4 ways to close a sale. What a waste of my time. But what if you said, do you know the number 1 way sales are closed in our organization? Stay tuned. So now you have their attention. So starting out with action and then getting to the objectives later makes sense. Now, we as the designers of the instruction, we need the objectives. Don't get me wrong. But do we have to hit the learner over the head with a boring statement right at the beginning when we have their attention, when they're fresh, when they're ready to go? And we say, okay, we're going to give you 4 slides of content. And then once we're done, we'll really get going after we do the terms. And then we'll really get going after we do it doesn't work that way. So you might want to simulate real world challenges, but in a safe, time bound way. So if you're dealing with filling out certain forms in certain order, you're dealing with spreadsheets, you're dealing with pieces of equipment, think through what problems people deal with and match the learning in that direction. And help learners build critical skills. Again, communication is helpful, adaptability is helpful, collaboration is helpful. I saw someone talk about help. One of the things that we've done is we've built in tiered help. So the first level of help is kind of vague, like, oh, remember, look in the corners for clues, right? Something like that. The second level is a little bit more specific. There are 3 things you need to find. And the third level of help is kind of like, hey, here it is. Like, you can't figure it out. It's 3 numbers that are on the desk, right? You can kind of give them that level. That way you can allow the learner to decide how much help they want to seek. Sometimes they just want a little bit. And if you give them too much, you kind of ruin it for them. But if you don't give them anything, you kind of ruin it. Or if somebody's like totally stuck, if you don't, especially if it's self-paced, if you don't unstuck them, they might quit. So you want to think about that. So with thoughtful design, escape rooms can drive really impactful learning. So in your chats, I don't want you to hit the answer yet, but did you get the 4-word clue? So go ahead and type it in if you've got it, what the clue is, and then we will reveal the answers here in a moment. Take a moment. All right, here it goes. So remember, we had this young instructional designer created an e-learning module. Nobody learned anything. And let's see if you got the answer. So 1, 2, 3, hit enter. It was a 4-word thing. So the answer was, the first clue was forget. That guy up above, that was kind of visual clue. He forgot something. The second clue was that Caesar cipher. and the word was action, which was underlined. Did you pick up on the lock that was highlighted? That was the only lock that was highlighted first. And then on the summary page, letters were highlighted to spell the word learning. So the clue was forgot action first learning. So that's the clue. So congratulations to those who got the clue. If you didn't, you can go back and kind of look again. And I would also encourage you, even if you're not creating a whole robust, board game or card game, presentations like this, you can add some clues into the presentation to make them fun, exciting, and engaging, and keep the learners focused on looking at the slides and things like that. So I'm going to open it up to questions. You can follow me on LinkedIn Learning. I have a newsletter that talks about this kind of information all the time. So feel free to do that. I also have Action First Learning. If you're interested in that, that's for sale. It goes live April 15th. So excited about that. But let me stop here and see what kind of questions for Joshua or myself. And after these questions, it'll be 100% Joshua who's going to show you the technical end of creating some of these escape rooms.
Right. We do have that special bonus session with Joshua here, so we will continue the recording. But now is your chance to pick Carl's and Joshua's brain with any questions that you may have. I know Gail said in terms of testing, how many pre-testers should you use?
So I like to use, if I can, at least the same number of pre-testers that I think are going to be playing the escape room experience. So if I think it's like a 4-person experience, I like to at least have 4. If it's an 8-person, I like to have at least 8. Ideally, I would have 2 sets of 4 or 2 sets of 8, but sometimes you don't even have that many learners. And you definitely don't want to do it. The problem is if you kind of like play test your own escape room, you already kind of know the answers and you're biased toward it. So you got to get people that are not with it and didn't help develop it, do the play testing, because they're going to be able to tell you a ton that you may have missed.
Great. And I know that you gave a Google Slides demonstration there, but Peter wants to know, do you have information on creating escape rooms with Google?
I do, yes. So if you look at the handout, I have a YouTube video, and I think this YouTube video as well talks about the process of doing that. So that gives you instructions on how to do that. I also have a YouTube video on scenario VR. So if you want to look at that's in there as well. So you can definitely doing that thing as well.
Great.
Yeah. Tyler, good point. Yeah, no matter what you think you have nailed down in the escape room, things will surprise you, especially if they're physical.
And Emily wants to know, are there any really stellar free technologies available that should get some highlights from you beyond G Suite and the 360 photo capture?
Well, I use the free version of ChatGPT. I used it for a while. I've since upgraded, but the free version of ChatGPT is amazing. If you're in Facebook Meta, you can use Meta AI, and I've asked AI to create an entire hey, I have this concept for an escape room. What do you think? And it can give you tons of information in it and use those kind of things. I'm sure other people have free stuff that they use and they can contribute as well. So please feel free to do that as well. There's not enough hours in a day for me to keep up with all the technology. I would love to, but all the technology that gets released all of the time. So if anybody knows of anything, please contribute it. That'd be wonderful.
And Al wants to know, how do you make sure the learner is not so focused on the escape room that they miss the content they should be learning?
Al, that's a great question. And hello, Al, good to see you again virtually. So that's where, in order to not miss that, I think you need to do 2 things. One, you need to think about if the learner gets something wrong, are they going to get all the needed information? If they don't escape, are they still going to learn? And second, so you may want to like have backups or have try agains or things like that. Again, it's not a commercial escape room, right? We want to emphasize the learning. So we may want to hit them over the head a little bit with the learning, like be very obvious. The second thing that we have to do is have that reflective period. So we have to force the learner. Okay, you got out of the escape room. What did you learn about this subject? What did you learn about communicating with someone else? What were the 3 things that you got out of this in terms of communicating? And reinforce those elements that they get out and link those elements to the escape room. One of the really good things about an escape room is it often taps into our emotions, the affective domain, right? Because we're nervous about escaping or we're getting stressed out. So we have these emotions, and information gets tied to emotions. So you can say, look, when the team was at their most frenetic and you were like almost screaming at each other, what broke down with communication? So you could say to a large group, what broke down with communication, and they could, oh, this broke down. But when you tie it back to that emotion that they had trying to escape, that's a really good way that you can do that. And so the debrief, I think, is probably the most important thing to consider when you're thinking about making sure that the learning sticks, the transfer of knowledge. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And I'm going to change our layout here so give people a chance to rank today's session as we're in the last home stretch here, the last 5 minutes or so. But do stick around because we're going to have a special bonus session demonstration from Joshua Bledgy on the creating escape rooms in scenario VR. So I know you want to stick around for that. The recording will continue just in case you cannot stay, but also put in your most useful ideas or takeaways from today's session. And even you can put in more topics that you'd like, even if it's an expansion on what you just heard. And we'll share these also with Carl and Joshua too. Also, let's see, Bernadette says, is there a way that you that some of the participants or can reach out to you for links to the escape rooms or the demonstrations that you showed?
Yeah. So the Lectora, are both on your website, Joshua?
The Lectora one is directly on our website. So if you go,
Right.
we have a product showcases page. It's there. The other one is we do have a public link available for it that I can share. I'll drop that actually. I don't know, is that I can drop it in the chat here if
Yeah.
that will work.
Sure.
Assuming I can find our chat.
Yeah. And in terms of the Google one or the other scenario VR, if you want to reach out to me personally, you might be able to make those arrangements. You can reach me on LinkedIn, so that would be the best place to connect with me, and then we can work on some sharing there in that environment. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And let's see, Ian had a kind of a 2 questions here. Is an escape room a good method for assessing knowledge gained and retained? And also, how effective is a single player game as with the helper clues feature?
Yeah. So a couple answers. If you have an opportunity to bring people together, either virtually working together on a virtual escape room or an escape room card game or board game, I would say that memorized knowledge isn't the best. You're missing an opportunity to work on problem solving skills. You're missing an opportunity to work on communication skills, maybe even leadership skills. So if you're bringing people together, I would say it's not pure knowledge. There's better ways to teach it. There's more effective ways to teach it, reinforce it. Use what you've got. Hey, we don't always get to get people together. If we do, let's kind of teach some higher order critical thinking skills, those kind of things. In a private, one-on-one escape room, I think it works a little bit better if you're going to teach declarative knowledge. You have to know what this acronym stands for in order to open the safe or things like that. But again, if you think about nonlinear thinking, you think about critical thinking, you think about problem solving. I think those are the areas where escape rooms excel in. And so let's use the right tool for the right kind of teaching. And I think those tools are really good ways to think about that and to leverage that.
Thank you. And let's sneak in one last question here before we continue with today's bonus session. Tyler asks, how do you build your support materials for the facilitators who run the escape room? I'd love to know or see that or have more information.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know if Kevin's still here, but Kevin had a really good comment earlier about how I think it was Kevin, about how he kind of puts them together. But typically what we'll do is we'll have, it's almost like a table format, and we'll have, where the clue is, what the answer is, what the learning objective is, and how long we think it should take. And so all that information can help the instructor as they are facilitating this process, and it gives them a sense of how long it should take, how long to let people struggle. We've even done some where we'll say, okay, here's a clue, here's this level clue, um, give them an answer when this happens. So you basically give a coaching sheet to the facilitator so that they know everything that's going on, they know about how long the puzzles are going to take, and then they know what the answer should be.
Great. Carl and Joshua, thank you so much. I know Joshua is going to stick around right now as we're on the hour, and we hope that you can stay for the bonus session here on the demonstration on scenario VR and using it to create escape rooms. There's also more information. You can click on your lower left there for more from ELB Learning on scenario VR. But Carl, thank you so much. You can stick around if you'd like, but I know you're a busy man, so you're probably going to move on.
I'm going to have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I may stick around.
Okay, well,
we'll
feel
definitely
free
go
to.
off camera.
Yeah, all right, you can do that. And such a great event and so much wonderful information here. Got a lot of applause and thumbs up from the members. Thank you. And Joshua, we're so looking forward to seeing more here about scenario VR. So go ahead and take it away.
Great, let's hop into it. So we're going to hopefully everybody can see this. I'll go ahead and move our window over here real fast. And just get a couple of screens configured. So I do have a cheat sheet over here, so that way I know. And Phil, as we go through this, if you can give me like a 5-minute reminder and a 2,
of course, sure,
that'd be great. So because we're going to try to get through as much of this as we can. I can't guarantee we're going to finish this full scenario in that time that we have allotted. But so this might look a little familiar. So this is a kind of a abbreviated version of that previous scenario that we just showed. But there's a couple things that I slimmed down just for the sake of time. So if you remember back in the day, like TV movies, like trim for the time allotted, that kind of a thing here. So I'm just going to show you what we're going to end up building, or what we're going to try to build here in the next little while. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on our preview mode. So in this case, we're just trying to escape the living room. You notice there's not any real going into the bathroom or the kitchen this time, but we are going to try to just figure out the clues just in this room. So we still have one over here, and this should look very similar to what we saw before. So what flies without wings? That's going to be our clock. And see it gives us our unlock code here, which is a little bit different. And as I kind of scroll around here, there's a new option here. So this is using Morse code as an example that of a code that Carl brought up here. And so I'm here to kind of have to translate the following code. And just for the sake of this demo, I know it is escape, but I give the key over here. So that way, those that don't know Morse code off the top of their head have a resource there. So we'll go ahead and hit escape. And we'll do this one last, but going to come back around here as well to our puzzle pieces. Now, this is a little different. So everything that you're seeing actually in this game or in this escape room outside of that one graphic for the Morse code was actually built with all the assets that come with Scenario VR. So that's why I replaced those initial puzzle pieces with some ones that come as icons within our library that comes here. And so we have 3 of our options here. We'll go ahead and grab one last one here. So this is that same Simon Says experience here. But a little different there. You just have your stars flashing at you there. And instead of trying to pick out the code, although that would be more, I think, more engaging, more action first there, we're actually just going to use a question in this case. And again, I kept it kind of simple with the answer being A. And now we have our unlock code. So we'll come back out here to type that in. And in this case, the keypad looks a little different. So we'll go ahead and just type it in here. And now we've escaped here. So that's what we're going to end up creating, or at least attempt to in the time allotted here. But I've actually kind of, in some ways, cheated. I gave myself a jump start. So I created a file for us to start from. So typically how Scenario VR works is you're going to either find a 360 image or create one. We do have an AI image generator within Scenario VR that you could use for this as well to get your 360 environment. In this case, I just pulled those images from that other one that we built here. And I do have some of the hotspots already started for us. I do have some of the other graphics already in here. And that's just purely to save time for what we're building today to get kind of to the meat of all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of work through the different puzzles that we have here. So first off, we do have our clock puzzle, which right now, all I have in here for this is our hotspot, and it's not doing anything at this point in time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add what's known as an info card. This is simply how you add text to the space. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy my text over.
And Joshua?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin has a quick question. Can you use 360 video too, or just images?
Yes, you can use 360 video as well.
Great.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and type our text in here, and we're going to shut off that visible toggle. So in Scenario VR, what this visible toggle controls is whether the learner can see it in the finished product. This doesn't do anything when we're here editing in the space here. So I'll go ahead and change this a little bit. I'll actually kind of make this a little smaller. Kind of got huge there on us. So we have our info card, and now we do need an additional hotspot over here on our clock that's not there yet. So we'll go ahead and add that hotspot, and I can always upload an asset or pull in from our media library like we see in all these others. But for this one, I'm actually going to make it transparent, and I'm going to actually have it show when they select this one of our numbers here. So I'm going to go ahead and have it just show our first 4 there. So we're going to go ahead and hit back and done. And I actually did forget one thing that I need to set on here. I actually need to turn that off for us because it's not going to initially be discoverable when we come into this room. And so I'm going to go ahead and move that a little bit and grab that for us. And so in this case, with our actions on this one, we're just going to go ahead and hide our object here and show our info card as well as our other hotspot here. And we'll go ahead and click done there. Now let's see if that all works the way that we intend it to. So we'll go ahead and click on that one there. Okay, so that's going to show there. And then as I click on the clock, it brings up our code. Now I don't want that info card to be persistent like that. So I'm actually going to do one small change here to this. And on our info card, I am actually just going to have it show for 10 seconds and get done there. So that's our first puzzle there. So now moving over to the Morse code one, I'm first going to upload that image that we had of the Morse code. So I'm going to go ahead and just add an image here and pull that in from my downloads folder here. We're going to go ahead and use the existing one here. Again, turn off the visibility on this. And I'm going to go ahead and position that over here and change the size a little bit and throw that over there for us. And now I have my hotspot here again, but I am missing my question. So I'll go ahead and add that question in now and grab my question text here real fast. And then grab my various answers here. Add a couple more choices to this. And again, that visible toggle. And we're actually going to turn off hide on answer just to give them a chance to, if they don't get it right the first time, to answer it again. And then we're going to go ahead and toggle our correct answer on and then give it a couple of actions here to then hide itself and show our next part of that code. So we're going to go ahead and have it show our second 4 there. And we'll also hide our Morse code alphabet there. So back and done. And then again on our hotspot back here, and since I want to be able to get to that a little bit easier, I'll go ahead and turn off that visibility there. So this is going to be visible, but I'm going to have it then on selection, hide itself and then show our question and show our Morse code as well. So now I'll come in here and double check that one as well. Okay, so now we have that correct. And that did pull up our code here. So that's perfect. Okay. So now let's do our puzzle pieces. So the puzzle pieces, we have all the elements that we need for this one already in place. Because this one was a bit more complicated. So we have our different images. So these were just created similar to what we saw with that Morse code, just uploading that or selecting it in this case from the media library. And we're toggling off the visibilities on these as well, just because we're going to have them show as we find the different puzzle pieces that correspond with it. So we're going to go ahead and just exit out of that here. But each of our hotspots are going to need a couple of things with them as well. So if we look at our 3 puzzle pieces here, we're going to go ahead and add an action to show the corresponding puzzle piece image, and then also do something where we show our 2. So our 2 down here in our unlock code. But in this case, we have to actually have some conditions. And so I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, if puzzle 1, which is this hotspot, has been selected, and wrong spot there, and puzzle 2 has been selected, and puzzle 3. So as long as all 3 of these hotspots were selected, we're then going to show our number down here, because that lets us know that each piece was found. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and just copy the actions from this just to make this a little simpler for us, since all these are going to have the same condition there. So I'm going to go ahead and just come in here, paste real fast, and then update the target for that particular action there. And same thing over here. Done there. And oh wait, I think I forgot to update the target on that one. Just let me double check that real fast. Yep, we did. So now let's go over here and just make sure on this other hotspot that it's doing what I want it to do. It doesn't look like it is. So I'm actually going to have it now again hide itself and show I believe it's going to be, let me just double check on which info card this is. This is info card 2. Show info card 2. And again, similar to that previous one, we'll only have that show for about 10 seconds. And then I'm actually going to have this show our hotspots. So showing puzzle 1, show puzzle 2, and show puzzle 3. And now we'll go ahead and check that one as well here. Okay, it showed our hotspots. We go ahead and select each of those. And we now have our 2 for our code there. So far we're 3 out of 4 done here. Let's go ahead and move over to the couch and do this final one. Now this one's a bit more in depth on how it's done. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of build this out for us. So each of these hotspots that are already here, we're going to just continue to use these. Now, one thing that I might suggest with this one, based off of some of the comments that were done during the webinar, is versus just doing this via colors, I think if I was to redo this one, and if I had a little more time, I would actually switch these out for a little more either unique, different designs from them, or even just doing colored numbers as well. So that way you had both references that you could use, the color and the number, as part of the code. In this case, I only have the code, so that does limit who can, or the colors here. So that does limit who can actually view or take, really understand the answer to this one. So like I would do some design decisions differently on this one if I was to do it again. But we're going to go ahead and add a couple of things here. So you notice that in this case, I do have those 4 hotspots. I do have actually all the sound effects for this as well already added here. So we'll be able to work with those. And you'll notice these guys down here, these different timed events here. So these are already set up for me. If I want to add a new one, I just simply select the flag here and position it at the time code that I would like it to be at. So if I want it to be at 1, I can then select those actions here. But since we already have these in here for us, and we already have one that's configured here. So this is configuring an action. So when the scene starts, it's actually going to pause it a couple of seconds in, because we're actually going to end up jumping to a particular part in this timeline when we click this hotspot. And that's what's actually going to cause all of our animations to trigger here for these different timings for these different objects here. So on this first one here, I'm just going to add couple actions to hide each of the 4 hotspots. So if I hide, red 1, hide blue 2, hide green 3, and hide orange 4. Now, this is, I guess, brings up another pro tip, because if you noticed earlier, I was kind of struggling to identify what my objects were called. Giving them a unique name really helps out. In this case, I did make sure to give them a name and a number, so that way I knew which in sequence they were as well. Just made it easier to tie with the different dings, because if you see that over here, they're numbered as well. They do correspond with each other. So now I'll go ahead and build the next one here. So in this case, on this one, we're going to have 2 actions. We're going to show our blue and then play our little ding sound effect. Or again, we're going to play ding 2 there. And we'll go ahead and add 3 to the rest of these, because this one's going to go ahead and hide our blue object and show in this case, our red. And then playing the ding 1. Now, each of these are the order behind these does matter. So it's doing these in sequence. So if you're ever doing something that requires certain conditions to be met and things of that nature within Scenario VR, you would want to make sure that your actions are timed specifically in that order. So in this case, we're just hiding that object first, then showing this new one, and then that sound effects going to play technically as 3 separate things. They do happen like within milliseconds of each other anyways with the timing on this, but it is important that order there. So on 15, we're going to go ahead and hide our red, show our orange, and then play our 4 sound effect here. Now, to make this easier on the rest of these, I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy my actions here as I move ahead to our 16 here. And I'm just going to have it hide 4, the orange, show the blue, and then play ding 2. Move on to 17, paste actions here, and then going to hide blue, show green, and then play 3 here, and paste actions to then hide green, show red, and play ding 1. And a couple more here. Sorry to do this so repetitive here. So we're going to go ahead in this case and hide red. We're going to show our orange and play ding 4. So that one's actually already configured for us. Perfect. And paste here. In this case, we're actually just going to hide our orange and then delete these last 2 here. And then our last event, which is going to be this event number 21, the thing that we need to put in here isn't actually there yet. So we now have all of those timed, but now we need to kind of put our other elements in here. So we are going to add another info card here that's not going to be visible initially. This is going to be our instructions, and it's going to be similar to what we had before. And so I'm just going to go ahead and type that in there and hit done, and then position that kind of around our hotspot there. And then I'm also going to add another question that's going to then ask what is the sequence here. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. And going to go ahead and type that in. So our different choices there. And in this case, again, we're going to select turn off hide on answer, turn off the visibility there. And in this case, there's going to be just one action here to show our 8 when it's done there. Hit done, position that here within the space. And then I'm going to go ahead again and toggle off the visibility here real fast so I can get to this hotspot. And on this hotspot, we're going to add a few different actions. So we're going to have it not only hide itself, but show our info card for 5 seconds. And this timing becomes important here in just a moment. And then add the actions to show the stars. 1, show blue 2, show green 3, and show 4 there. So if you notice, I have an action here on this first event to hide these. So this is where we're actually showing them since they start not visible in the room there. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump to a time in the scene. I'm actually going to jump to 7 seconds. If you notice, our first event here is at 12. So 7 plus 5 for that card showing is going to start that event in the same timing that we need there. And then I'm going to add one action more to then play our scene. So back and done. And back here on this number 21, I'm going to go ahead and just add the action to show our question down here. So let's go ahead and play this one right here. So it seemed like that all worked well. We'll go ahead and select that, and it gives us our last unlock code. And in this case, actually, we do want that to then hide itself on that question being shown there. So go ahead and just make that visible one last time, and also just hide.
And Joshua, about 5 minutes. 5 minutes remain.
Okay, perfect. So the last thing here that we're going to do is actually add our timer. So I'm going to go ahead and just add the timer. In this case, I am going to make it fixed. I am going to keep autoplay invisible on as well. And I'm going to come in here and create my timer here. So we're just going to go ahead and do it for 3 minutes, so 180 seconds there. And we'll go ahead and give it minutes and a countdown there, and back to properties and done. And now we'll go ahead and position this in the space back down here in this corner. So that's going to count down for us. One last thing that we're going to do to ensure that the time saves between the scenes, so that way they come to the next scene at the same time where they left, we're actually going to add a variable called time save here and set that to 0. And done here. I'm going to go ahead and just double check something here real fast. Done. And moving on to our last hotspot here. So this one already has a couple of actions here. So already set up. So we're going to go ahead and set time save to this value right here. And you'll see what that does here in just a moment here. So that's all we really need to do. So these other scenes, figuring for time, I actually have them already set up to where, like, if we type in the code, it's going to let us escape. And again, this is done via these actions again to modify certain variables and things that were already added to the scene. So we're not going to worry about either of these last two scenes. So now let's just go ahead and play from the beginning our scenario that we built here. So what flies without wings? Clock, time. We have our first number there. What's our clue here? Escape. So we have both 4s. We have our Simon Says. I'll go ahead and select our answer there. Then we have our hotspots that we're finding within the scene. And now we can exit. And 8, 2, 4. Looks like I might have missed a step there to keep the time saving across the scenes, but we won't worry about that at the moment. But I know that was very quick and fast through that whole process there, but hopefully that gave you some idea of, how we can use this tool to build these escape rooms, and just some of the core functionality of this platform as well. If there's other use cases you have for more hands-on training and things like that, it's going to be very useful for a variety of different use cases. And as you see, it's pretty fast once you kind of know what you're doing in it, and your design, like understanding your design beforehand also really is helpful. Because if you notice, like I was referencing a document over to my left here, and that really makes that a lot faster to kind of go through and be able to create these. So thank you all for staying. Was there any questions, Phil, that we had pop up?
Actually, we'll pause here, or we ask people to put in questions. I didn't see anything that you missed covering. Joshua, thank you for the full demonstration here. Let me go ahead and change just this here. And we want to remind people that the scenario VR, just click on your screen there, or from the chat, and you're no longer on video, Joshua, but of course you're still with us here.
Mhm.
And the go ahead and put in your questions. Jacqueline, thank you. I was going to ask, go ahead and put in chat if you found this demonstration helpful. Great. Tina, thanks. And don't forget, you can reach out to Joshua on LinkedIn now that he's sparked your curiosity and shown you how, at least to get started. And Joshua, just a thought: are there built demonstration sessions within Scenario VR?
There are so we do have a trial available. That's a 30-day
Oh,
free
good.
trial. That there
Okay.
is there is a demo file in there. We're in the process of kind of maybe updating that as well. But one thing that I do, as part of my responsibilities here at ELB, is if you're ever interested in having some one-on-one time to kind of walk through that again at a slower pace potentially, we can feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to kind of get you set up with the tool and get to help you get started as well. So
Great. And that the contact information is in today's handout, which we'll post with the recording. If you didn't have a chance to download it, it will also again post with the recording. You can download it from there. And both Joshua's and Carl's contact information is there for you to reach out to them for more information. And ELB Learning is always available to help also. And Jen, if you can put in maybe in chat where they can contact, or what channel they should contact through ELB Learning for more answers to any Scenario VR specific questions, that would be great too. But we want to
uh,
thank our members. Oh, go ahead, Joshua. You're going to
I
say?
do see one question that popped in through the
Good.
takeaways here from Peter. It says, how is the escape room hosted? Is this a file that's put on a server? Yes. So in this case with Scenario VR, it can be a SCORM file or a link as well. Like there's a whole host of different ways you can utilize it, and it can be restricted to just people that have access to your website or your LMS, whatever that might be. You can also make them public, like we have with that apartment scenario that we sent out earlier. That's a public link, and so our users do have the ability to do that as well. But I always recommend being very careful with that functionality, just because you don't want to put something proprietary out there by mistake. So just be very cautious of that, but you can restrict who has access to it for sure.
Great. And Jennifer, thank you for putting in the info at elblearning.com for more information. And there's Josh's direct also contact information. And again, in the handout was the LinkedIn profile also for both Carl and Joshua. What a great session, and time did fly here today. With even with the bonus session here today, it was just so interesting to see the Scenario VR in action and to learn more about captivating people's attention in escape rooms. I guess that pun was intended. But and we want to thank all of our members for attending today's session. What a great session, Joshua. Again, thank you so much. And also thanks to Carl Kopp for all of your wisdom and knowledge. And we look forward to seeing you back here at Training Magazine Network very, very soon. Thank you all. Make it a great rest of your day.